Welcome everybody to another episode of Market Like It's Hot, brought to you by Rebel Marketing. As always, my name is Yasmin Robles, and I am here with Izzy Dudowski, and we are your go-to team to help you make a ton of money with marketing. I'm really excited because we have Jason, and Jason, I think I might mispronounce your last name. Is it Donapel?
You nailed it. Crushed it.
Oh, okay, cool.
Perfect.
Awesome. I'm really excited to have you here today, Jason. Jason is the COO and co-founder of the Email Experience. Jason, let me know, what is your history? How did you start the company? Tell us all about yourself.
Sure. Yeah. So, hi, my name is Jason. It's really great to meet everybody and be on the show. I'm really happy to be here. My e-commerce, it's really an e-commerce story, I think, because that's where everything kind of came from. Started in fulfillment. So I was in a warehouse picking and packing, shipping for a fitness. We sold like fitness equipment, Garmin running watches, like early Fitbit. We were early adopters of the Fitbit. So that kind of helped a lot until Target pushed us out. They have a bigger budget than we do. But I was with that company for about 10 years, a little over 10 years. And I just sort of, it was a small team. There was 20 people on the team. It was, fulfillment was done in-house, marketing, everything was done in-house, customer service. It was right here outside of Philadelphia. And I just sort of worked my way through. And by the time I left, I was heading up the marketing department and sort of multiple channels of Facebook ads. We were doing Google, we were doing Amazon, eBay, all that good stuff. I think jet.com was still a thing back then. So we were hitting jet pretty hard. I hated that API very much. But email was the thing that just like spoke to me. I loved the opted-in status. I loved that we weren't like, the dynamic ads and all that felt creepy to me, like following people around the internet, and they were so effective, but I just didn't like it. It didn't feel like something I wanted to really spend my time doing. So email became the thing, and I just loved it. I put some gigs out on Fiverr back at the time. This is almost 10 years ago at this point, I think. And I just wanted more email work. I just wanted more exposure. So at that time, I was the only person with Klaviyo in my profile. I said, like, I'll build your Klaviyo flows or something. And I just charged a lot, like $500. I was like, I'm going to charge like 5X what everybody else is doing to see what happens. And, 3, 4, 5 sales a month, it just started kind of trickling in. I was blown away. I loved it. Well, $12 was my first order, and I was so pumped. And then I actually met my partner. Through that, he hired me on Fiverr to do some abandoned cart work. And before you know it, we just started doing more and more jobs for his network. And here we are, like 8 years into the agency now, and we've grown to almost 40 clients and 40 team members, and just been rolling along. It's a blur at a certain point.
What's the one thing that you what's one of the most surprising things about growing the business?
That there's no rules, and there's nobody to tell you that you're doing the right thing or the wrong thing. You spend so much time, like, I think of it as like looking at my hands and like what I'm working on and what I'm doing and building. And then I didn't know to pop up and look around and say, like, are we going the right way? And I feel like there's so many doers and so many just like achievers and put my head down and workers that without you're setting your own rules, and that can cause trouble for a lot of reasons.
Yeah. And what is one of the biggest mistakes that you see your clients make in your space?
Oh, so the biggest mistake, it's all mindset. Like, it's all just like where you're focusing your time, because business owners have such a short amount of time day to day, and they're so pulled to the urgencies, and the urgencies are always the Facebook ads, the meta ads, the things that are spending and kind of churning away at your profitability. But, we find that when you take a step back and you think about how to build, if you're thinking about selling your business, right, and how to value the business from, like, if I wanted to sell it tomorrow, nobody is buying your business based on the value of your ad. It's not happening. Nobody cares about your ROAS. It's outside of you, because that's not a unique value that you bring. That's just you operating in Facebook, right? When you're building a list, an audience that you can reach whenever you need to, whether it's through email or SMS or WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger is now an opted-in channel, or physical mailer if you can. Like, this is when you you bring value to the bottom line of your business. And I think of it as like pillars you're building in a business that add to the physical value. Like we're so digital now, we're not brick and mortar anymore, but an abandoned cart is a blueprint to how to sell to a customer. Like Sears 20 or 40 years ago, whatever, would have built training videos on VHS of our best abandoned carts, and every sales associate would have had to train on it because that is a pillar of the business. And we don't think of it that way anymore. And it just is, it still is.
Yeah. So I guess picking off of that, that's a weird way to put it, but building off of that, what is one of the best investments that clients can make or I guess one of the best ways to work with your company, and what can they expect?
Well, I think, I would encourage clients and I would encourage people to spend time, see what you can do first. Like you should be close with your customers and close with your messages. The messages you send to your customers are so, it's like it's different than an ad. Like you're in somebody's inbox, an SMS, you're in their phone. Like how creepy is that, dude? Like my wife, I talked to my wife on this thing, and like it's also, Nike sends me whatever, the Love Hurts product, which I did buy because that sweatshirt is sick. So thank you, Nike. But anyway, like when I'm thinking about building a successful program for any brand, there's a 4-step process that we go through. And I think if you do the steps for your own brand, you'll learn a lot about how to be successful on other channels. You'll learn a lot about how to send messages to your own audience and how to just get insights. So step 1 to me is opt-in. How are we taking traffic, anybody from your digital properties, whether it's an e-commerce store, or if you are a coach, and you're pushing people to a landing page or a VSL or any digital property you own, which means AKA not a Facebook page, not a TikTok page, right? And how are you turning those traffic, how are you turning those users into opted-in members of a list, right? Pop-ups are the big one, exit intent, embedded forms, thinking through this process is so important. And the way that we think through it, I'll give you a couple specifics because I want to be helpful, is like an e-commerce brand. We really want to drill down into what can I learn in the pop-up that's going to impact my welcome message in the most positive way, right? Because I really have no business sending a message to somebody if I don't know what they're doing here on my site, right? If all I know about them is, hey, 15% off for an email, and then I send them an email, that's clearly a one-sided email meant to benefit me and only me, because I don't know anything else about the people involved in the email. So when we're thinking about an e-commerce website, the first thing we can think about is how it's merchandised and what are you offering your audience and what specific problems are you solving for your audience, right? So a brand like Hims, whatever, let's talk about a brand like Tecovas. I'm working with Tecovas now and I'm so excited to be working with them. So let's just make it tactical. If we're working with a brand like Tecovas, it's not really a problem solving, right? We're just increasing happiness and bringing that kind of Western flair to people's lives, right? But some of the shopping pitfalls we come across are people interacting with cowboy boots for the first time don't know about the expected fit. It's not like a pair of Jordans where, it's a whole different vibe. Like these are built by cobblers in Leon, Mexico, like by hand, and they're hammering pins into the bottom of them, to make them last forever. So it's not the same as like putting on like an Adidas. So a piece of information we're very interested in collecting is this your first time buying a boot? Because that's going to change the very next message I send to you. And if I want you to understand the break-in period of a boot, or I want you to understand how to think about the width of your foot before you go shopping, we have to address it differently for a user who's a brand new boot shopper versus somebody who has 3 pairs of either our boots or a competitor's boots, right? We want to know about that aspect of a shopper. If they were in one of the retail locations and a salesperson was walking up to them, they would ask, hey man, have you had boots before? Is this your first boot? They would look at their feet and see, are you wearing boots? Oh, cool. They know about boots. I don't have to so this is kind of like the digital version of doing that, just kind of getting our bearings a little bit. And once we learn that, our welcome message is now 2-sided. We're not just pushing our own come buy our boot agenda. We're actually trying to curate a better experience for the shopper. And, marketing is I think it's so beautiful. Marketing has become more and more of this, where it's no longer this high wire act of how to get somebody to convert. It's more about how do I just bring my solution to the right, how do I just get them to the right part of the store? Like, how do we just reduce all these barriers and get the right part of the store, you know? If I can then add like a boot size collection to it, maybe they're on a product page and they click 7.5 or 8, and I can push that back to the email profile I just collected. It's only 2 pieces of data, but I know that I have a brand new cowboy boot shopper who's a 7.5, and all of a sudden my emails are better, my abandoned carts are better. I mean, all of it's better, and you can just continue that enrichment of the profile across every touch point if you think about it, you know. So post-purchase, what do I want to learn? Do I want to learn about, this is for a wedding? Is this a gift? Is this for you? Was this for your mom? Oh, sick. Was it her birthday? Amazing. I'll remind you next year. Like we can really get into the lifestyle aspect of how to help our users through email and SMS. And that's just through a pop-up, you know? So that's step 1. I would encourage you to spend a lot of time on step 1 because it's so foundational. Your pop-up and welcome series are step 1.
With how you're segmenting your audience out with that, like let's just say the boot company for an example too, how are you, like within the website, for example, how are you getting those customers to kind of differentiate themselves like within it so they, you know, like how to like appeal to them? And then also it's like, are you looking at previous emails like through their heat map, and are you getting information off that and what to send them next? Just different things like that.
So what I really like, zero party data is what they're calling it, and I hope that's the right name. That's like the branded name that the platforms call it. So I don't know. I still call things flows because Klaviyo taught me that like years ago, and I can't stop it now, even though I don't like it. So anyway, what I really like is just interactive. Think of like the effectiveness of like sending a customer a survey without the annoyingness of them having to fill out a survey that they don't want to deal with, right? So if I can launch a pop-up that has one little drop down on it that just says, is this your first boot? And it's a yes or no. Boom, got first boot, right? And since it's tied to that opt-in, it comes over. It's like, this is Jason Donapel, this is his email address, and he said it's his first boot. So right off the bat, that segmentation happens. And then we simply now, as a brand owner, you have these 2 audiences. You have to build 2 welcome messages. If you don't do it, you have to do it now. You can't not do it. You can't just ignore this data point. And that's what I love about the data we collect in this way. It's not this cloud of personalization data that hangs above you. And as a marketer, you're like, I don't know how to action this or what to do with it. Because you're the marketer setting up the collection piece, you're mapped out. Like, we made the decision. We want to collect this data piece because we want to write the messages for these 2 groups, right? So you have the welcome message split in mind before you collect the data. So it's actionable by definition. You wouldn't have collected it if it wasn't actionable, right? So that's one way to look at it, like literally throwing a drop down on your pop-up, the thing is that spending 2 weeks thinking about what the data you're going to collect is before you put that drop down in there though, like, and I say 2 weeks, whatever, like make it hard. Like it has to be meaningful. You're wasting you and your customers' time, and then just don't do it at all. Another way to do it, which I love, is merchandising the website. So if somebody, let's say I want to collect like a boot size or something, if somebody lands on my shop/men's page, I can show them a pop-up dedicated to that page that has men's. It's men's branded. It's branded with men's boots, and it's collecting men's boot sizes. And then I could even say like, do you want women's instead? Click here. Switch them over really quick. So simply by deciding I'm going to put this pop-up on this page and this person came from this pop-up, I'm saying this is a person who was shopping men's. Yeah, that's data, right? Cowboy boot, men's, size. And you can play with all these pieces now. Maybe I say I'm not going to do size. I'm going to say, all right, I'm going to get this men's specific boot, this men's specific pop-up on the men's page. Great. I'm going to throw that, is it your first boot checkbox on there? Great. Now I have a guy who's buying his first boot. Awesome. I can write that message. So it's about being tactical and surgical with how you separate, and like understanding that like the right question can swing the whole conversation open, and you can do a better job in your emails, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I know that we're talking a lot about personalization and segmenting, and I love it. I come from in corporate, I worked in email, but how do you get past, it can get pretty creepy. It can almost feel like you're being stalked because we had that when I worked there, the capability of even geotagging. So we would know if you were in a mall and can we send you an email as you're in the mall or a text message to push you to get into the store. Is there a line where that personalization might just get, to be quite honest, kind of creepy?
Okay, look, there's a line for sure, but the thing is that like the line is different for every individual you're sending the message to, and it's insane that, look, I deleted one of the first things I did when I, whatever, year 6 of that first company I worked for, and I started running Facebook ads. The first thing I did was delete I deleted everything. All my social media profiles went. If you search me now, all these profiles are like a year old because I just got like, people were like, dude, you have to do this. You have to be, because my level of creepiness is very low for digital marketing. It just is what it is, right? Some other person might be walking through, a huge mall, like an Aventura mall down near Miami, and get a message like, hey, you're near the Prada store. And they'd be like, that is so cool. That Prada reached out to me. And like, so the thing is like, yeah, it's creepy, and no, it's not. And I don't, how do you figure it out? I would really lean on, just don't be creepy, right? Like the scenario that we just played out, I asked you if it was your first boot, and then I delivered like first boot tips to you. That doesn't feel creepy. That feels like I listened and gave you what you're looking for. And then the same thing with sizes. I'm giving you a message like, hey, we pulled boots in your sizes. And that is a way to feel good, I think, about the experience. It's like a removal of friction. So part of the data gathering piece is like, yeah, don't be creepy. Like do a little pop-up where if you're running ads and they're targeting a specific strategy or a specific pain point, right? Where like we're selling supplements and we're going to hit like a bone density angle in our ads, whatever. So we have a UTM bone density angle 1. Somebody comes in through that bone density angle and it starts brushing, build a pop-up that only pops on URLs that include UTM equals blah, 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 whatever, and just connect it to the content that was working in your ad. It's not creepy. It's just curated, right? It's curated, and you can walk the line. And if you just spend a little bit of extra time, launch the ad, and then think like, wait, what happens next after they click this? Are they going to get the same pop-up as everybody? Is that okay? How does that impact the welcome series I'm going to send to them? Can I do better here? Is it worth my time to do better here? How many people are going to click this ad? All that stuff has to kind of roll around in your head. And I guess that is creepy that you're thinking about all those things before you send an email to somebody. Don't tell them you thought about all that though. Just send it.
Based on that, I know that for us, when again working in retail, we started sending emails that were asking, I don't know if it was permission, but basically trying to be sensitive to certain people. And for example, Mother's Day. If Mother's Day is a little bit of maybe you've lost your parent or something. If it's a touchy subject, we would send an email saying, do you want to continue receiving emails about Mother's Day? And we would let the user give us that information, number one, so that we can keep it, keep that data. But then that way the campaigns wouldn't be, I don't know, distracting. It wouldn't be like a little bit jarring for them. Any thoughts on that?
To me, that's more brand play than marketing optimization. I put that more in like the branding book. Like if I was making an org, I would put that underneath my branding expert more than marketing. Because what you're going to see with marketing is that people are going to be mad no matter what route you go there. Like, so you're either going to be too sensitive or too woke or not enough or whatever. So you just have to, at that point, lean on your branding and say, I trust you guys. We're just going to go with it. And the negative feedback will come. And who cares? It doesn't matter. I did a Father's Day email once. It was so my 2 worst emails I ever sent. Is that okay? Can we do that? 2 worst emails I ever sent is, there was a Father's Day where I did like a Luke, I'm your father thing. I like Star Wars. See, so I did like a Luke, I'm your father. It was like from the person who said, and I put first name tag, first name tag, I am your father. And I got so many of those, like, my dad died 10 years ago. I'm like, I'm sorry. If it was 10, like, I'm sorry, but So that was like that was one. But I mean, then you also get the other side where people are like, I love Star Wars, it's hilarious.
Mhm.
You take it. The other one, which is the worst one I ever sent, was my first and last April Fool's attempt, which was for that company it was Heart Monitors USA is the brand, and we did an April Fool's one where I sent like a fake order confirmation for 100 Fitbits, like, hey, thank you for your purchase of the 100 Fitbit whatever's, and then it was like a $8,000 invoice, like fake invoice, and then it was a picture of a little girl laughing and like, oh well, happy April Fools, blah blah blah. Here's the temper. Dude, we got so many customer service calls that the customer service team left. They walked away from their desks and they were like, you can take this. I watched them walk out the front door from my desk, and I was like, this is the worst day of my life. But it's not. It disappeared the next day. It was over and it's gone. So don't worry.
Yeah, but I would say April Fools is very tricky because even at a local level, I think one of the local communities here, they did and they sent it out through different chambers. A cat, they were an initiative for for indoor cats to be part of the outside, and they were an initiative to like construct something like a cat shed that was attached to your house, and they could like go sort of be outside but still be within your house. And I ranted so much about that, and then it was an April Fool's joke. So it was funny, right? For that it was funny, but April Fools can get a little tricky depending on who the audience is.
Oh man, yeah. You hacked me. So many. How did you hack me? I'm like, no, that's not what this is. Yeah.
How did you hack me? I feel like that's with like any email you potentially send out, though, whether it's following up with someone or like, it can go either way. So
yeah, very unhappy that. I mean, it was, it is what it is. You learn. I haven't sent another April Fool's joke since. I think that may have been 15 years ago. It was a long time ago. Maybe with all the personalization, maybe there's an opportunity now to identify people in your list who would be into April Fool's jokes and.
In our world, we divide our clients between, most of our clients are B2B and service-based, but we do get the occasional e-commerce. We do get B2C clients, service versus retail. Is there a difference that you see, in your opinion, for tackling customized emails, sending them out to their audience, or is there something that ties them together that they should be doing?
I mean, so for B2B sales, the only difference to me is the data you're collecting and actioning. Like, to me, the same, it's still just individuals working through whatever online experience you've set up for them. Maybe they're placing orders by phone, like from an online catalog. But any time you have a list of people, there's an opportunity to understand better what they need from you and then create a personalized version of it to give to them. And there's a point of diminishing returns on all these as well. So you don't want to, you have to find that, which is the reason you want to spend so much time being careful about the data you collect, right? If I was going to try to customize an email for like on the B2B side for like every size of boot, that wouldn't make any sense, right? It just doesn't make any sense. But if you have a B2B brand, if you have B2B customers that their interest in your catalog is shaped by maybe the region they're selling in or their clientele, or there's a whole series of reasons that you should present yourself differently to your customer, whether they're B2B or D2C, right? And I would argue that B2B is actually where the larger lift opportunity lies, because traditionally there is nothing in place here. Like if we're seeing bare minimum attempts at D2C personal, like automation, I won't even say personalization, but ship automation, there's nothing on the B2B side that I'm seeing in the audits that I do. So when we just set up a very basic nurture series, like we literally just start setting up very basic nurture series, collecting little bits of data, what part of the catalog you're interested in, like, and with B2B, you can also like cut the crap. You don't have to be markety or brandy about it. You can just say, what do you want? Tell us and we'll give it to you. You can just do it and they'll want that more. So I would argue that B2B is where you should absolutely action this first if you have that lever in your business. And there's one more thing. Oh, because the splashes, I mean, the upside is just so high, right? You're not going to get $100,000 D2C like order, right, randomly off an email. But I've seen it happen on B2B where you're just like right person, right time. You send a trunk sale email out, and all of a sudden, boom, like it just hit. You got somebody in the right part of their buying cycle. This buying cycle is zero party data. All that stuff. It's not an anniversary. It's a buying cycle. You can learn all these things about your vendors through personalization, and you should.
How different are those types of customers, like a B2B customer versus a B2C customer, like in regards to one, getting that data off of them, trying to understand like who they are trying to sell to as well, and then
so much easier
retaining them potentially as a client for after too, because that's probably more towards not just a one-time purchase versus somebody buying it on their own.
It's so much easier because they're invested in the relationship as much as you are, right? Like D2C is a very one-sided, what are you doing for me? Mm-hmm. But B2B, like it's so valuable, right? Because you can also shape it so many different ways to your vendors and your partners, right? You're showing them a concrete investment in your relationship, which is basically a line item as far as I'm concerned. Like, you know, I work with the agency. We work with Attentive a lot for our SMS and email sending. We used Klaviyo for a long time. We have a lot of Klaviyo, but we use Attentive now, and it's literally because of the B2B efforts that they make towards us. Like they're the best partner we've had, and we want to be the best partner that they've had. Mm-hmm. So if you can get that in your business between your vendors and your B2B people, like that will boost you. It'll boost you. It'll make you more resilient. It helps you when weird macro events impact D2C shoppers. It helps keep you stable and strong. I think the question you actually asked was like about the users. In my experience, they'll just give you it's so much easier to get the data. They'll just give it to you. You don't have to trick them. You don't have to play these games about, I'll put this pop up here, this pop up there. You just ask them. Like, yeah, here's a 10-piece form. If you fill this out, your experience will be 15% better with me. They'll be like, okay, I'll do it.
So I tell a lot of our clients not to be afraid of their numbers, kind of like what my accountant tells me, but that's a different story. So don't be afraid of your numbers, the analytics. Do you find that for us as nerds, we love looking at those numbers? I guess the question would be like, how do you support your clients in understanding the stats that are coming from all of this work that you're doing, and how to make educated business pivots based on that?
I think that's a really great call out because, yeah, right. If it's not actionable, then what's the point of any of this stuff? And you can imagine there's a scaling problem when you are, so like right now the agency has around 40 clients. So there's a scaling problem. You have to tackle all the data associated with email and SMS, especially. I hope that you guys see that a recurring theme in the way that I approach it is by like just removing things that don't matter and really culling out the data and the things that don't move the needle for me, or at least creating a framework or a flow chart where I don't get into stuff I don't need to be into, right? So when we're thinking about retention marketing specifically, it doesn't really matter. It's the same approach for me no matter what. I care about messages sent and then the value of the messages sent. So raw number of messages sent every month, and then RPR, revenue per message sent, on the very most basic level. To me, that's telling me if my personalization is working, right? Because if I send out 1,000 messages and you send out 1,000, my RPR has to be higher because I personalized mine, right? That's the fundamental, at the most basic, is this working or not working, right? Then we couple that with how to raise the number of outgoing messages in a meaningful way. And the reason for that is very simple. My time being head of marketing, I saw that the highest ROI activity a business owner can take is an email or SMS. It's retention marketing. It just is what it is. You get like $45 for every dollar you spend on email, 17 to 20 on every dollar you spend on SMS. Post is a little more expensive, but these are just numbers you don't see on other channels. The reason that they're not collected is because getting the stuff out is labor intensive, right? Building an email, sending a list, and blah, blah, blah. So the whole process that we've set up is meant to automate as much of that as possible. And then if you measure the amount of messages you're sending every month and then the value of them, you can get a very good holistic look at, are we moving in the right direction this way? Then from that platform, you can very, very easily dig in to see what's either working or not working about the program, because you want to collect both, right? The thing about the program is that the wins, they don't stay in email and SMS, right? Back to the boots, if I learn that new shoppers, if I learn that a specific unique value proposition to new shoppers, like one of the things we push is that the break-in period is pretty easy, right? People wear our boots out of the store and it's okay. So if we find that a specific angle or a specific way to present that to a new audience, because we've segmented that out for our welcome series, we found that, wow, this angle works with new audiences. Like, look, we see that we sent X amount of welcome series to new boot buyers, and they were worth $5 a message versus existing, which was only worth $3 a message, right? And this is the angle that made it worth that. That angle is going to show up on Facebook ads. It's going to show up on billboards. It's going to show up at the Austin billboard that they just put up. It's going to show up on in-mall advertising. Like, the things you learn in your email and SMS need to spread out to acquisition in order for you to get the full benefit of the feedback loop, because it is the source of truth for your audience. You're learning, when we learn about what products are being returned, and then we can find out, so we noticed that a specific style or a specific size or a cut or something is being returned at a slightly higher rate than others. We can action that by making welcome series messages about it. Like, we can make post-purchase about this boot. It breaks in a little differently than others. And so we can start to knock all this stuff down through retention. And that's all, literally, it's all just how many messages you send, how valuable it is. And then finding out, oh, we sent more last month. Where? Was it on the campaign side or the automated side? Oh, we sent more automations. Which automation? Welcome series. Great. And it's right down the list. Like, you can't miss the reasons once you start, like, with the right kind of key metrics, I think. The other side of it is, if you have a down month, you're like, why did we underperform? Why is revenue down? The first question I ask anybody on my team is, did you send less messages or were they worth less? And then they say, well, we sent less than last month. Okay, why? Well, last month was Valentine's Day, so we sent, okay, well, that was expected. So we're, how about last year? Did we send more compared to last year? Yeah, we're up 100% last year. Great, then we're trending in the right way. Like, this is expected, or why did we send less messages? I don't know. The browse abandon just delivered 50% less than it did the month before. Something's wrong with the website. Like, everything becomes the early warning system. It's the truth. Like, it's interacting with everybody. I like email a lot, if you can't tell.
Yeah, that's what I tell clients. Email, we can build you a great looking website. We can do all this, but email will help you retain current clients. It'll help you educate clients, whether you're B2B, B2C, it doesn't matter. Like, it's so powerful. And then if you segment, even as a startup, if you just segment one white paper from another white paper, and that's what you do, it still can give you a lot of information depending what actions are taken. So earlier you mentioned your worst email. I would like to know if there is an email that you thought wasn't going to. So for an example, one of our clients, the one thing that they did different was they changed a sender profile to the name of the owner, and there was no fancy pictures. It was just like a letter from the owner announcing a sale, and that one got opened more than any other one, more clicks than anything else. Is there one that surprised you, or that just did really, really well, better than you were expecting?
Yeah. Yes, there's one that I hate, that I still hate that it did well, because it just makes you feel like, what am I doing here? Like, what's the point of all this? It was back when I was like just starting, and not just starting, I was probably 4 or 5 years in, and I had done so much research on cart abandonment. I was like digging in. I was going to make it perfect. And I built out this highly personalized cart abandonment split based on what Garmin watch they purchased. And I was like, if you're a triathlete versus this, it was a whole thing, right? And then my boss at the time, the owner of the company, launched an email beside it, and it was just a picture of a dog in a shopping cart, and it said, "You forgot something," and he won. She won. So whatever, like, that was that back in the HRM, back in the HRM days. Eventually I did beat him out with my personalization, but it just took, it took a little longer. It's humbling, right? To think that, what you think is always going to work won't work. And that's the other thing that I remember. There was a brand I was working with called Madam So. They were a startup that I got involved with, and I was head of marketing for them for a while too. And this is honestly the thing that started the whole zero-party data collection, because as head of marketing, I built up everything. It was the perfect marketing thing, right? Because I built it myself. No more clients to ruin my amazing plans and ideas. So as it was a sewing company, I personalized and customized everything down to be very sewing oriented, like sewing gifts, sewing supplies, sewing projects, free patterns, free tricks. We hired somebody to write a sewing blog and do like online sewing classes and things. Like we really leaned in heavy, real hard. And then we got this ability to add the first drop down, like the first pop-up drop down I did. And I just asked, like, what are you here for? Sewing, quilting, or both? And sewing was the least picked one. It was the third place, least picked. It got, if I remember correctly, the numbers, it got 700 some picks. So it wasn't like it was dead, it was there. But quilting was 1,100 and both was like 1,600. So it was like good, better, best scenario. And it just blew me away. Like it just blew me away that what we thought we had this like store where we were like the sewing community of sewists. And so we thought of so many ways to say the way sewer, because sewer looks like sewer when you type it. And it won't out there. She's sewist and sewanista and all sorts of funny stuff. But what we really had was a bunch of quilters and hobbyists and things that go to sewing stores to buy the supplies they need because that's where they're stocked, right? So what we did is we just created splits. We did a split for sewists, a split for quilters, and then a split for like crafters, we called them. And then, the shifts were very, very subtle. The welcome message went from, you're in the perfect place for sewing to, hey, quilting goods this way, and, all sorts of crafting, and same SKU, same collection, same everything, little different product description in the email, a little different, and crushed just like immediately. We saw click rates in the quilting group, click rates in our welcome series went up to 33%, which is like unheard of, right? Because we just said, are you here for quilting? They said, yes. We said, oh, cool, here's quilting. And I said, oh, I'm going to click that because that's the thing I wanted, right? And when you're on a digital store, you can open up as many entrances as you want. You don't have to be a sewing store or a quilting store. You could be whatever you want to whoever is entering at the time. And I know this is like a long one, but I think that it's so important because we actually developed products based on that. Like the quilt storage bag was born, and it became it's the highest selling product that store has now, or at least when I was working with them, it was. And it would have never even been developed if it wasn't for that little drop down zero-party data. So if you lean into it and you allow yourself to be horribly wrong like that in front of everybody, and you say, hey guys, I just spent the last 12 months building for the wrong audience. Like if you can just stomach that and get past it, you will learn how to do it the right way. And then you just do it.
That's awesome. Izzy, do you have any questions?
I think everything on my end's covered.
Yeah. So
I talk a lot, dude.
Yeah, no, you don't. It's not talking a lot. Yeah, it's explaining everything. So it's great. And I'm sure our audience is just gonna love the deep dives, and the examples. The examples are great.
Yeah, whatever I'm happy to help.
Yeah. So, okay, one final question, and then give us your takeaway, like your call to action and all the information of how people can get a hold of you. So the final question is, how do you market like it's hot?
With an urgency that I can't seem to like push down. Like for whatever reason, I can't. The ideas, like the stuff just keeps happening. I can't. So I feel like to me, it's almost like I was talking to my wife about it this morning. I was like, if I don't get this stuff out of me, I thought it was going to explode. So that's how I market like it's hot.
That's awesome. And how can people get a hold of you?
JasonDonapel.com is where I put my blog and stuff like that. I like to write a lot about email and SMS when I have time to do it. And then I post on LinkedIn sometimes as well, Jason Donapel. I don't really have a call to action besides like go look through your pop-ups in your welcome series, think through that zero-party data collection, from your customer standpoint, right? How could this message be better if you had one little piece of information about them, and then just lean into it?
Yeah, it's beautiful. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Make sure to go stalk Jason everywhere that he mentioned on LinkedIn and on his blog. Check out his business, and we'll see you in the next episode.